Hello everyone, we're back at the board. This video we're going to walk you through just some basics of how to actually use the apps, the different features you can do. There is frankly too much to put into videos to show all this stuff. To some degree you'll just have to play and explore, but we will guide you down some paths here so you can see where you can get started. We will show you the basics of things that we have found to work well, that we know work well. As we find more useful features or different apps that we might come across, we will of course let everyone know. But to begin with, some of the basic stuff that you'll just want to know is super basic navigation stuff. So first of all, if you need to view all your apps, you just swipe up on the screen. This is really just a big Android tablet. Think like an iPad, but an Android version. And so anything, if you have an Android phone, a lot of these features are going to feel pretty similar, but so you just swipe up in the middle of the screen, there's your apps. If you have apps that you want, let us know. We can vet those, and then we can push those out remotely to boards instead of people having to do that on their own. There are a lot of security, privacy, legal reasons that we have to vet some of the apps, so if you find one you think you'd like, let us know and we'll check it out. So again, swipe up to get the app drawer. Swiping down from the top, like any kind of mobile operating system, gets you a bunch of options. You're probably not going to need this, frankly, but if you do, it's there. If you open up this little, on either side of the board, there's a little arrow that pops out, so you can get this quick menu on either side. So up at the top, the first few, the back, home, and recent, those you can certainly access from that way, but what we have done is we've pushed out a setting where everyone will have this 3-button navigation by default. So this is the back button, the home button, and the recent button. Those do probably what you would expect for the most part. So if you're in an app, the middle one is home. That just brings you back to the desktop. There are some apps, when you are in them, they can obscure these buttons. And so if that happens, if you can't see those buttons for some reason, some apps will sit over the top of that menu bar at the bottom, then you can always pop open the side one and hit home, and it's the same thing, it gets you home. But most of the time you can use the home button there. The back button, the one with the arrow pointing to the left, that just does a back option, so whatever in that app makes sense for that app. If you're in the internet browser, it'll go back a page or whatever it might be in that app. The other one, the button on the right that looks kind of like a square, that shows you different apps that you have open. So maybe you're working in a couple different apps and you want to swap back and forth. So here's our settings one. We can click that one and then we can switch over to Chrome quickly. You've probably done that on your phone, kind of a similar thing. You can also force quit apps from here, just like on a phone. So if you're in here and maybe Chrome is being finicky and you want to force quit it so you can restart, you can swipe it away and that'll close the app. In this side menu, there are some other features you can use here as well. So there's a shortcut to the Write application, which is essentially just the whiteboarding app that you can use anytime you want on here. So lots of stuff you can do in there. We're going to go over that in a little bit in more detail. Explorer is essentially the folder structure, the file system of the board. So if you're trying to navigate your folder structure to find a file, again, we'll go over this more later as well. Get rid of that so you can see the menu bar a little easier. Apps, all that one does is opens up the app drawer. You can just swipe up to do that same thing. Annotate, that opens up something that usually will happen automatically, so you probably don't need this button, but let's say what happens on these boards is if you pick up a pen and you just start drawing, it's going to annotate over the top of whatever is there. So it pops up this little menu down here, and that's how you know you're kind of in annotation mode. And when you're in that, of course, you can switch between things, you can change your color of your pen and all these different things. If for some reason, we've never really had this happen, the pen works really good, you pick it up, you just start writing and it works. But if you want to open that menu manually, you can click annotate and that just forces that same menu bar to open up. But again, you probably won't need to do that because it just opens up when you pick up a pen and start writing. If you use the back side of the pen, it'll erase when you're in annotate mode. When you're in different apps, that can sometimes do different things depending on what that app is designed to do. But when you're in regular annotate mode, when you just pick up a pen, doesn't matter what's on the screen, It can be your desktop, it can be an application, it can be a Word doc, whatever you're working on. It could even be a computer that's plugged in and you're viewing your computer screen. You can just pick up a pen and write on top of it. This is again referred to as annotation, and when you're in that mode, it's not actually sticking to the document you're writing on. You're just kind of making a fake writing layer over the top of that document. If you want to save that at any time, like for some reason you want to share this, maybe you found something cool you want to share with a fellow teacher, maybe there's like a button you're trying to emphasize, like, hey, click this thing. You can have whatever set up on your screen you want. You can hit save, and that's going to save to a special folder inside your Google Drive. When we set up our accounts the other day, one thing that did was it created a folder inside Google Drive that then stores these files. So it's real quick and easy to grab them regardless of what device you're on, assuming you're signed into Google Drive. And so now that file is in our annotate folder. So if I go to, I'm going to close all this annotation. If I go to Google Drive now, and I go to my OneScreen storage, I have two. That's because this training account has been used and abused in various ways. You should just have one. If you have two, let us know. We can help fix that. And then in this annotate folder now, there's that little screenshot I just made. So maybe I want to share that with someone or what have you. Quick and easy to do. This will obviously be back at your computer too, because it's just in Google Drive. So you'll be able to go grab it from anywhere that you're signed in. To adjust the volume on your boards, you simply can open up the side menu, and there's a volume option right here, and then you get the volume right here, up or down. You can also use your remote. There'll be buttons on there. All of your remotes have a bit of Velcro on them, and they should be Velcroed back behind the right side of your board. Please put them back there unless you have a different very safe space to put it, just so we don't lose them. It's very easy to throw them in a drawer and then things get misplaced, or during summer cleanup when custodians are going through and cleaning, things get missed. If they're just always back here, it's probably the easiest for everyone to know where they're at. The other thing you can do in this side menu that we haven't went over yet is the menu button will open up a few things. It will primarily let you switch from different inputs. So maybe you have a different HDMI device that you're going to plug into the side of here. On the back right here, there are different input options, a bunch of HDMI and Type-C ports that you can use. That will let you switch between those. There's a couple ways to do it actually. This is one of the ways. You can open that up, and any of them that have something plugged in will be green, and you can select them. This also lets you change the volume here and the brightness of your screen. You probably want it all the way up. It's going to be the easiest for kids to see. If you needs to be dimmer for your room, that's fine. You're not going to damage the screens by having them all the way up. These are commercial displays made to be bright and running all day long if needed, so that's not a problem. Let's see. Probably don't need to change any of those. The other thing I'll show you in a little bit what can happen when you plug in a device, what that will look like, but a way you can manually access that thing we will show you later is by opening up this app called PIP. That stands for Picture in Picture. What it will do is basically give you a preview of whatever device is plugged into your board. So then you can decide, okay, yep, is that the one I want? Yep, I can hit this enter button, and that'll take me from the Android operating system into the computer or whatever it is I have plugged into that. And you can toggle between the inputs right here. And again, you can do all of that also in this menu right here. So this does the same thing. Before you get too carried away playing with the apps, you might want to just decide maybe there's an app you want to throw on your desktop to make it easier to access. Maybe you know you're going to use Google Drive a lot. You can swipe up, get the app drawer, you can tap and hold on whatever app you want, and then start moving on the board, and it'll give you this option, and you can set it wherever you want. Maybe you want Google Drive to be right over there, so you can configure your desktop however you want. Most teachers are going to be using the same board every single day because it's your classroom. However, if you do end up using multiple classrooms, depending on what your assignment is, these settings will follow you. So when you go to sign into another board at in another classroom, it should remember how you've customized your desktop and copy them over there every time you sign in. The one thing that will not automatically happen when you go to a new board to badge in with the NFC reader, when you scan in down here, is because of how Google security works, you won't automatically be signed into Google again. So you'll have to go up here and sign into Google just like we did in the last video. But once you do that, then you're off and running just like regular on another board, not having to do all this kind of setup again, because it should remember how you liked having your board set up. One thing I imagine a lot of people will use pretty often is just the Chrome browser. It's just a full-fledged browser, so you can show whatever you might need in your classroom on the browser if that's something you need to do. One thing I would check, it seems to do it by default on most of the ones that I've played with, but once you open Chrome, if you click the three little dots, this isn't an actual app, but if we actually go to an app, say we're in Classroom, if you click the three little menu dots and scroll down, there's this option for desktop site. If you find a website is loading kind of funny, like it's loading more like it looks on a phone and not like on a computer, you probably want it to look more like how it does on a computer. You can make sure that option is checked, that desktop site is checked. So you can always double check that if you're having any kind of layout issues with how it's looking. Or maybe for some reason you want the mobile version of the website, you can uncheck that and then you'll get the mobile version of the website. Another Chrome feature that I think would be useful for a lot of people is utilizing the mobile bookmarks and the widget. So maybe you have 5 or 10 various bookmarks that you go to all of the time for your students, things that you want to show them. Maybe you have like web-based classroom timers or different visual things you like to show, or just different curriculum websites that are actual websites you have to go to. Whatever it might be, if you bookmark those as mobile bookmarks, you can then put a shortcut to those on the desktop. So let's say, well, first of all, let's just show you how you do that, how you make the widget. So if you tap and hold on the desktop, you get the widgets option. If you expand the Chrome option, this one here, Chrome bookmarks 2x2, if you tap and hold on it and then drag it wherever you want it, that's going to create this little shortcut of whatever your mobile bookmarks currently are. So as an example, perhaps I know several teachers that use this bouncy balls classroom kind of sound monitoring tool. So you can hit start bouncing balls. The first time you do it, you're going to have to hit the microphone and give it permission to use the microphone, pretty standard web-based stuff, and then tell it you're okay with it using the audio anytime you're using the app. And if you haven't seen these applications just monitor how loud the sound is, and you get activity on the board to let your classroom know if they're being loud or not, and you can change the sensitivities. So maybe that's something you use often, and you want to leave it in there so you can quickly get to that every day without having to fumble around. If you want to add things to this, it's as simple as going to whatever the website is. So maybe you have a classroom timer that you want to use. I have no idea if this one's any good. I'm just grabbing one, whatever came up first. Maybe you want to use that. This is the exact page you want to use every day. So you can bookmark with the star up here, right here, hit that bookmark, and it says saved in mobile bookmarks, which is what it should do by default. If it doesn't, you can move the bookmarks in the bookmark manager from one folder to another. But now that it is in our bookmarks, our mobile bookmarks, which just to show you, if you click here for the menu and then bookmarks here, these are the 3 mobile bookmarks I have now, that bouncy balls I had before, classroom, and now this online egg timer that I just added. So now when we go back to the home screen, we should have the egg timer here. So kind of handy, whatever your most common things are you're going to use, you might want to consider doing that. Oh, I should add that if you have more than what will fit on this screen, they're scrollable. So as you add more, you'll be able to scroll through this. I don't have enough to show that right now, but you'll be able to scroll through that. The next thing we'll go over is just kind of Google Drive and Google Slides, because I know there's a large percentage of teachers that most of their kind of actual instructional time when they're talking is revolved around showing some slideshows. I know different people have different methods. Some people might use different applications for this. Google Slides is going to be the easiest and most just kind of platform agnostic in the future to make sure that these things work and you don't have to redo your work in the future. Things like Smart Notebook or other proprietary applications are a little more troublesome long term, because as those softwares change and adapt, or they charge more money for them and we can't get them, those become a real problem, and it's not a real pleasure if you're a teacher and you have to convert your files from one place to another. We'll go over some Smart Notebook stuff later if you're a Smart Notebook user, what you can do. Long term, I would recommend getting to a more just platform agnostic tool, and Google Slides is probably the easiest one. Google Slides, you can always export them in different formats, and so your stuff is pretty safe. Even if Google changes how things work in the future, we can easily keep your content, where that's not the case with things like Smart Notebook. The next thing we'll do is just walk through Google Drive and Google Slides, because I think a pretty large percentage of our staff use Google Slides to just deliver their regular content during their instructional period. So when you open up Google Drive, it should default to just showing your priority tab here. Mine was on files because I had already been in the app earlier, but usually it opens up to priority, which just kind of is Google's guess as to what you want to open. Usually it's what you've opened recently. If you want to see all your files, you can just hit Files. Again, remember that this OneScreen storage folder is a folder that OneScreen created when we connected our drive to our accounts. And the point of that is when you're saving annotations or making screen recordings, it can automatically dump those into your Google Drive folder, so you can grab those from any of your devices without having to send it to yourself, email it, or upload it or whatever. It'll just happen automatically. I have 2 of these. You can ignore that. That's because I've been doing a bunch of testing with this account, and I did some silly things that caused 2 folders to get created. If you have funny issues like that, let us know, but hopefully that shouldn't happen to you. If you have a slideshow that you want to present, it's as simple as finding it in your folder structure, opening it up, and then you could go through it in this kind of editing mode if you wanted to, but obviously most of the time you're probably going to want to make it full screen. I can't show that fully right now because I have a goofy setup going on to make it so I can record this screen. So when I click play to start the slideshow, I get present on connected display because I'm outputting this to another screen to record it. However, you would just have present on the on this display, and you just click that, it'll go full screen, and you'll have your slideshow. When you're in the slideshow, you can do big swipes to move forward and back, or if you tap down in the corner, I believe you'll get some buttons to also go forward and back. When you're on, well, anything, frankly, but this is a good example of when you would use it. When you pick up a pen and you annotate on something I want to point out is that annotating just means you're writing over the top of the screen. It's like an overlay that just sits on whatever is on the screen. It doesn't really know what's on the screen. You're not interacting with what's on the screen in that sense. You're just drawing on it. So what I mean by that is if you were to go to the next slide, that just stays there, right? It doesn't know that it belongs here because it's just an overlay sitting on top of the screen. If you have a need to write in your slideshow so that you can like save those edits and then maybe share that with a student that was absent that day, or maybe you want to post this to Google Classroom every day so the kids have not only your presentation but they also have the markups that you made to that. We'll show you how you can do that here in a little bit, but normally when you pick up a pen, this is referred to as annotating. You can switch the colors and all those things with the toolbar here, but that's just kind of living on top of the document. You can just hit clean right there and start over and just keep drawing on all your slides. So those are just like temporary markups. If you decide you have a need to keep those annotations, Google doesn't have a real straightforward way to do this on a tablet style operating system. What we did find though, one way that you can do this is if instead of just clicking your slideshow, you click the three little dots and you find the option that says open with, it will by default just convert that slideshow to a PDF. And this is essentially a temporary version of your slideshow. This is not in your drive currently. It essentially made a copy of your slideshow as a PDF, and now you can go through your slideshow. It's not a slideshow anymore now, it's just a PDF, so you don't have the buttons to just quickly move from one page to another, but you can just slide through and you'll be able to give your presentation still. And in here you have the ability, because now you're opening a PDF, the built-in PDF viewer does have annotation functions, or I'm sorry, more than just annotation functions. You can also draw inside of the document. So this gets a little nuanced. It's not super complicated, but it can be a little confusing if you're not quite sure where you're at. If you just draw with the pen right now, this is just annotating. Anytime this little guy pops up, we're just annotating. If I scroll away, that's just annotated over the top of the board, right? Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I want to actually write in the document so that I can save this whole document when I'm done and have those edits. Well, to do that, if you tap the screen, you'll get this little edit button down here in the bottom right. I'm going to click that, and that opens up the PDF in an editing mode. Things get a little different in here because the navigation changes. So now you can use your finger to draw. That is actually going in the slideshow. Those edits are in my slideshow. One thing we've found is that the back side of the pen, I don't know if I'm getting that there, the back side of the pen is about the same roundness as your finger, and so you can usually trick the board into thinking you're using your finger by using the back side of the pen. So if you use the back side of your pen, you can just draw. All of these edits are inside the actual file. If I write with the fine point side of the pen again, it's going to know, and now it's just annotating over the top. That is not going to get saved. So now if I scroll, when you're in this mode, you have to use two fingers to scroll, because remember, one finger was how you draw. So two fingers lets you scroll, but notice these markups that I did with my finger, those are actually staying with the document. The one that I did with the fine point on the pen, that's just an annotation layer. It's not in the document. So I'm going to close that. I'm just going to make a little markup on each of these. And let's say we want to share this with a student or post to our Google Drive or whatever, or to our Google Classroom, whatever it might be. I can hit save a copy. We can decide where we want that to go. I'm just going to put it in my drive, so it's called My Slideshow Copy. Of course, you can edit that, you can do whatever you want there. I'm just going to hit save. So now if we go back to our drive, here's My Slideshow Copy as a PDF. I didn't change my original in any way, so I didn't mess it up and accidentally ruin it in any way. I have my original from my next class period or whatever it is, and now I have my PDF copy that I can grab and email to someone or share in Classroom, whatever it might be. So we had that specific request from quite a few people, so hopefully that's helpful. Again, it's a little weird because the moment you get into that edit mode, once you click this guy down in the bottom right, the navigation changes a little. It's two fingers to scroll, one finger to draw, or again, you can trick it by using the back side of the pen to draw. So hopefully that's an easy way. Once you get used to it, it's super slick and quick. That's probably a real easy way to mark up stuff if that's a need you have. Again, a lot of people are not going to have these needs, and that's fine if that doesn't apply to your classroom at all. It's just an option to use if that helps you. So having said that also, then this kind of is just adding, maybe pointing out the obvious, but I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. If I go back, if I have any other PDF, maybe I have a PDF from my curriculum, from my book, whatever it is that I've downloaded, and I want to be able to open it up and mark inside of it, or not even, maybe I just want to open it up and mark over the top of it as annotation. You can open up any PDF like that, right? Inside your drive, you can open up any PDF, and you can either, if it's a PDF, you can annotate over the top of it, right, like this, and these are just temporary markups that follow, they just stuck to the top of the board. You can either do that, or again, if you want to draw inside that PDF so that it actually sticks and saves, then you click this edit button down in the bottom right. Now we're in that edit mode. We can make this bigger. And again, now it's 2 fingers to scroll. That's the only kind of wonky thing you got to get used to. And now you can either use your finger or the back side of the pen to make annotations inside that document, and those will actually stick to the document. So that's pretty slick, and again, hit save up there, no different. The only difference, and just to reiterate this, is let me go back, if you're going to do this with a slideshow, if you want to convert it into a PDF so you can work with it in that way, you got to click the 3 little dots and hit open with. And by default, because we don't have a different PDF viewer installed on these boards, it doesn't say what do you want to open this with. It just opens it with the default PDF viewer and gives you this option. So now we're going to go over the OneScreen Write application. That's this one right down here. It's the kind of general purpose all around whiteboarding application for OneScreen. When you just need to come up to your board and have a canvas to write on and work with, and have some different tools for coloring and drawing and shapes and objects and things, this is where you want to go. So we're going to open that up, OneScreen Write. If you get this popping up, you can just hit no. Because I've been playing with the board, I had made some edits, but I didn't actually save the file I was working on before because I didn't want it. It's asking me, do I want to try to recover that? And that won't always work, but sometimes it will. I'm going to hit no. And then you just have your blank canvas you can work with. So we're not going to go over every single one of these things because this video would get very long if I did, but I'll try to just point out some things. But you're going to learn more just playing with these things than I can show you, in a long, boring video. So just some basic stuff. By default, it selects the pen tool. This is different now than in some of the other areas of this video where we either have already or will be talking about annotation. This is not annotation because this app is built for this board. So anything you draw in here is in this file now. You can save this if you want, export it as different file types and various things. So that is inside there. You can, of course, change all your pen tools. You can change your colors and all these things. So maybe I want kind of a pink color for this side. You can also change what is on the back side of the pen. So this is trying to show the front side of the pen. Oh, I can't draw to show you what I wanted to show you there. This option here will be what's for the fine point of the pen, and then this option here will be what's for the bigger back part of the pen. So maybe I want the back part of the pen to be this color, and I want the front part of the pen to just be regular black. I can do that. So now I have black on this side, I have that teal on this side, and you can change like the line thicknesses and all those things, whatever it is you might use. So maybe you have 2 of the most common colors that you want to use all the time set up there, and you can of course switch manually, but it's nice to have 2 quickly accessible. To erase, you can either hit the eraser button, or you can also just use a big flat palm and erase like that. Pretty similar to most whiteboarding applications. But again, if you can also just hit erase and use an eraser too. So multiple ways to do things. If you want to clear your whole board, maybe you have stuff all over and you've been working on a whole bunch of stuff and you just want to clean it up and it's nothing you care about saving, there's a clean button down here. You just hit clean and that'll all go away. Again, I don't want to go over every single one of these because it'll take a while. And some of these are pretty self-explanatory, but you can pull up rulers, protractors, compasses, all those various things, different shapes, shape tools. I think you guys will figure those out playing around. Multi-user is kind of a useful thing if you want your kids to come up and interact with the board. Maybe you're going to have a math race-off and they're going to answer, try to get through an algebraic expression or something. You could put it in either 2, 3, or 4-person mode. So here I'm in 2-person mode, and what happens is they each get their own side of the board. So maybe this person is going to write with green, this person's going to write with red. They can both be writing up here at the same time and doing whatever it is they're doing. You could also have, you could have chose 3 or 4 students, and you could have 3 or 4 students up here doing that. That might get a little tight, but in theory you can. It gives you the option for up to 4. This camera button We're going to get into document camera stuff more later, but I do have a document camera down here. You probably can't see it real well in the video, but there's a document camera here pointed at my OneScreen remote. Maybe you need to pull something into OneScreen real quick. You can throw it there, grab a picture, and then it'll throw that inside your this OneScreen Write, so you'll have that there to work with. We'll show you other ways to, if you're a heavy document camera user, there are better ways when you're just trying to, go through a bunch of work with your students. You don't necessarily need to use this application. You don't have to pull in a picture, but if you find that useful, that is a function you can do there. If you're a science person, chemistry specifically, this is kind of a fun little tool, all sorts of stuff in here. You can insert the entire periodic table down with this button here, or you can insert specific options here. You can also tell it you just want different groups of elements, and you can also choose how this shows. So maybe you're trying to show electron configuration. You can grab those and insert those. That may or may not be useful to you, but quick and easy to grab that kind of stuff if you just need to reference it. Under more, there's a whole bunch of things. Again, we won't go over this in detail, but formula stuff. If you're a math person, you can come in here instead of trying to manually type out formulas, because that can be a bit of a pain. This might help you get that expression written out quicker so that you can insert it, something like that. You can get it in there quicker without having to try to type that in or whatever other clunky way you want to try to do that. Simulation, I haven't played with all these, but they look like some of them might be kind of useful. I'm always a little hesitant to recommend these things because companies like to just change some of this stuff. Things will work one day and then a month later something changes. Maybe they drop one of these, they add a different one. So I hate to recommend getting too stuck on this kind of stuff. Smart Notebook, if you were a heavy Smart Notebook user, you've probably been burned by some of that stuff in the past. So it is here. There are some really cool simulations and things you can do. It's up to you how much you want to utilize those, but some of them are pretty neat. Once you have, let's say you want to use this more heavily and not just as a temporary whiteboard space, you can save your files. So save as, save, import, export, depending on what you need to do. Most of the time you're just going to be saving it. When you're saving files, you can do a couple things. By default, it shows My Files and Write. So that is going to be the place in your Google Drive where it's OneScreen storage. It's that OneScreen storage folder. Then it's going to be in the Write folder if you save it here. If you want to save it in your Google Drive somewhere else, you can click this. This is your Google Drive. You'll see all your stuff here, and you can save it in whatever folder you want from there. Now I will say, just like Smart Notebook is a special proprietary file type that only Smart Notebook can open, this is similar. These are a file type, I believe it's .env, which means nothing to most people, but that file type opens really nice on this application. It's not going to necessarily open nice on other applications. You can export them as generic whiteboard files, and there's other things we can do. If these kinds of things are relevant to you, talk to us and we'll work with you. If you need to convert from one file type to another, all those kinds of things. For most people, I think most people are going to be using this software just as a temporary, it's just your whiteboard space. Just like you use your whiteboard in your classroom, you draw something on it, you erase it, it's gone. You're not saving that all the time. I envision this being used in that same way. This is your temporary whiteboard space to work with throughout the day. You can even, it's kind of an infinite canvas, so you can zoom out and move around. Maybe you want to do something during first period and you don't want to do it twice. You could kind of tuck it out of the way, do whatever it is you're doing now, and then you can come back to this later if you need. So whatever works for you. Lots of different ways to use this stuff. And I guess I should say, it was kind of obvious, but to pan around, to move stuff around, is 2 fingers. A lot of phone and tablet applications are similar. To zoom in and out, it's pinch and zoom. So kind of basic mobile application navigation. If you get a whole big mess going on like this and you want to clear the whole thing, you can hit that clean button. If you go over here to the menu option, there's this theme button. It will come up to templates by default. I was in the other one previously. So there are some of these just themes that you can put on here. Maybe you just want some lines or some grids for graphing or whatever it might be. Maybe you want some music notes. You can throw that up there. The only thing with these to be aware of is that these do not scale with the infinite canvas zooming, and they don't move around. So if I put a note on here and then I use two fingers and I want to move that around, just my drawings move, not the actual background. That template is just affixed right there. You can also throw a color behind it. Maybe you want just kind of some kind of different color to make it slightly less boring looking. If you want to use this more like a slideshow application, you can do so, just like a smart notebook sort of thing. You can click add down here in the bottom right, and that adds a new page. So here's page 2. I'm going to go add another page. Here's page 3. And so now in the bottom right, you can see here, as I scroll through page 2, page 1, if you click the actual page button right there where it says 1 out of 3, you can open up this menu, so then you can scroll through that way. And then you can either copy or delete entire pages. One other thing I just want to show real quick. We kind of saw it earlier, but I didn't actually say it, and I think it's worth pointing out. When you're using the pen tool, there's this option called use fingers to select. Usually that should be on by default, but in case it's not, you'll get a different behavior, and I want you to be aware of it in case you need to change it. So if I'm drawing something and I want to be able to move that, I can draw it with the pen, and then I can simply grab it with my finger and move it. So it's pretty intuitive. It knows the difference based on what you're doing by the size of the touch that you're using. So the small pen touch versus your larger finger. It's using that to figure out, is this person trying to draw, or is the person trying to move the object? And so that works because we have this use finger to select turned on. If we have that off, it's not going to try to do that. It's just going to treat both things as pen touches. And so this is a pen touch, this is a pen touch with my finger. And maybe you want to use that. Maybe that's useful for you for some reason. But I think generally speaking, you're going to want that to remain on. It also lets you like select many objects at once too, if you want, automatically by detecting you're using your finger and moving stuff around. And remember, you can pick a different tool for the back of the pen. So if we want the back of the pen to be red, we can have kind of three things going on now, right? We got black with this side, we got red with this side, and we got our finger that can select and move stuff around, all without having to go back and forth and pick different tools. A lot of the boards we looked at, a lot of the other options were not this clean. Every time you wanted to switch a color, every time you wanted to switch from pen to a move tool, you had to go down to the menu bar, back and forth, and they were very cumbersome to use if you're using the drawing feature a lot. And so this was the best board that had these kind of features. Earlier in another portion of the video, we showed to keep this one key operation widget here. The reason we recommend that is there are a few useful things here. Obviously there's a shutdown button that lets you shut your board down quickly. You can either hit OK to confirm and it will go right away, or you can let it count down and it will shut down when it's ready. You can also quick switch sources, so this is kind of handy. Most of the time when you plug in a device, and we'll show you this in a little bit, it will detect that and it will ask, do you want to switch to that device's input? If it doesn't, you can always use the source button and you can switch back and forth here in that way. But we'll show you that a little more in just a sec. This privacy clear, you usually won't need this, but there could be times where maybe you're having an issue, Google Chrome is doing something funny, a website's not working properly, or whatever it might be. There might be times that the help desk asks you to come in here and clear your trash. It's not really your trash, but it will clean up some app data in the background that sometimes can goof up how apps are functioning. And you can also quickly delete your Google Chrome browser history, and it only deletes from this device, so you're not going to lose your history on your other devices. But sometimes there's problems with cookies and site data, and so sometimes you have to clear those, and that's like a quick way to get there, so you don't have to remember how to get to that inside of Google Chrome in case you ever need to do that. So that's why those are there, why we recommend leaving that there. On the topic of sources, so if you are the kind of teacher that needs to connect a computer to the device, every board will have this Type-C cable coming out of the right side, and we've kind of hung them over this handle up on the top right of the board. It's a 6-foot cable. Ideally they would be longer. I don't want to get into the whole rationale behind all of this, but there are technical reasons we have a 6-foot cable. Pushing data over Type-C cables, which is where the world has gone nowadays. There's not HDMI or VGA, all these things. The world is moving to Type-C. The amount of data that these things have to carry and the way they do it is different, and you cannot have 50-foot long Type-C cables to carry video. They simply do not work. And so if you need to connect your computer to the board, you'll have to find a way to set your computer up closer to the board. Perhaps you have just a random extra classroom desk or a little stand you can put it on. I know that's a little bit of an inconvenience, so I apologize for that. We will also show you how you can cast your screen to this thing if you need that to be the case. Most of the time, you can probably do what you need on the operating system of the board. That's the best way to do it. It keeps your device free for whatever you need to do with it for attendance and grades and all those things, and you don't need to worry about your screen showing things you might not want shown on from your computer. But if you do need to connect your computer, I know you can't really see this here, but I have a laptop down here. I'm going to plug this into the Type-C port, and we'll see what happens here so we can walk you through the steps. We plug that in. It should detect automatically and open this picture-in-picture app. If it doesn't, you can click source and open this manually. And by source, I mean right here in the one key operation. So here what's happening is we're already getting a preview of my laptop screen. So here's my laptop, and we're getting a preview of what is being shown here. There's a couple buttons in here that I would recommend just not touching. They give you a lot of features that might just overcomplicate things. The size option, if you were to hit size and then hit full screen, I do not recommend. Things get a little weird because it just full screens this window over the top of Android, and it gets a little confusing. So I'd recommend not doing that. Maybe you want to make it medium though. Maybe you want to have your computer screen open while also being able to write on the Android operating system. I think there's useful potential reasons for this. I'm not sure what they would be off the top of my head, but maybe you have a need for that. You can do that, but generally speaking, all you're going to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to hit this green enter button, and that's going to just bring you over to your computer full screen. Before you do that, you might want to click this touch button. If you look at here right now, there's an X for touch. We want to turn that on probably. You don't have to, but I think you're going to want to, because what it'll do is it will let you actually control your MacBook from this screen. So you can just set your MacBook over to the side, and you can do everything by interacting and touching on the board up here if that's what you would prefer. So we're going to turn this off, or on I should say. So then it turns green. When you do that, depending on some settings on your MacBook, you might have to give it permissions. If some stuff pops up on your computer and tells you to give it permission to do something, you can allow it to do so. Mine did not do that in this case. So I'm going to hit enter. And now what we've done is we've just switched completely to the Type-C port. So we're not in Android anymore. We're not in that built-in operating system. We're just on our computer. And with MacBooks, if you so choose, you can just close your lid and set it to the side. It should keep outputting your display. Sometimes it'll close for a little bit, but it'll come back. So now we're just right in our computer, and I can do whatever I want from here. I can, move stuff around. I can open things all from touching just on the board. So it's kind of handy. It turns your MacBook into an interactive device as well. And just like when we're in the Android side, excuse me, I can annotate over the top of anything here, whatever I want. Keep in mind these are just annotations though. These are not actually being saved inside the computer. Or like if you're writing inside a Word doc, you're not actually putting it in the Word doc, you're just annotating at this point. But we could, if we really wanted to, we could hit save here, and that will save a copy of that picture to our Google Drive OneScreen storage annotate folder. And so I could go grab that later and share it if I needed to. So again, maybe you're trying to show students something, or maybe you're even teaching a staff member something. They had a question of how you did something. You could mark up your screen and you could hit save, and you could grab that in your Google Drive and share that with them. A couple notes about this. There's a lot of nuances with the way tech works nowadays, and trust me, the tech team doesn't want these things to be the case. It's just the way technology works in a lot of cases. Sometimes there are things that people want to do, and we can't facilitate that, and it's not oftentimes us trying to be stubborn, it's just the way certain things work. So for instance, if you're trying to show certain types of videos from your computer, if you're showing it from the built-in operating system, most of that stuff's just going to work. That's why I'd recommend just using the board as a computer by itself. If you can get away with not connecting your computer to it, that's easy. If you need to connect your computer to it for certain things, maybe there's a certain video you're trying to show and you can only access it from your computer for some reason. When that's the case, because of how there's something called HDCP, high definition content protection. It's a legal thing that companies put to basically keep their copyrights safe. When you try to show those videos in certain ways, they work in certain ways and not in other ways. If you're hardwired with a Type-C cable like this, and all you're really doing is mirroring your screen, that's going to work. Your video will show, you'll be able to control it from here, hit play, and you'll be able to show your video. If you've ever had the experience where you're maybe sending a video over Apple AirPlay and it's just black up here on your board or on your projector, whatever you're using before, that's related to that content protection stuff. So if you need to show something like that is giving you trouble in other ways, the best way to get around that is just physically connect with the Type-C cable. I know it's a short cable and you have to get your computer up close to the board, and that's a little bit of a bummer. But with the way technology is moving, that's what we're kind of where we're at. We will go over in a little bit how you can cast your screen wirelessly from your desk if you really want to do. Maybe your desk is on the other side of the room. And again, I'm going to reiterate, we would prefer that you just use the operating system on the board instead, but maybe there's something you need to show from your computer today. There is a casting feature you can use. However, with that, you're going to run into those video problems. You're going to not be able to show certain kinds of video because of that content protection. You're also going to have a lot of latency. The casting is internet-based casting. It's not quite as smooth as native Apple AirPlay, and so that internet-based casting is a little bit laggy if you're going to use that. Right now, this is all nice and quick. When I move something, it's all snappy and quick. There's no lag. If I showed a video, it would look good. The audio and video would all be synced nicely. When you're casting, it's not going to work quite as good. The casting version is really if you're just maybe showing a slideshow, you're just going through a website, that's going to be all fine and dandy. But if you're going to try to show a video, you're probably going to have a bad experience doing it over the casting. So just kind of an FYI. You will be able to use touchback with casting, so you'll still be able to control your computer from up here if you really needed to. So that's kind of a neat feature, which again we'll show you in a bit. If you need to, not if, but when you need to switch back to the Android side of the board, you can do one of two things, right? You could, if you just unplug your cable, it's going to look like this, and then people might get a little confused here because once the input signal goes away, it just looks like this. To get back, you need to click the arrow here and find home, and then you'll be back to here. One thing I did notice is that when you want to get back into your device, when you're going to connect to it with a Type-C cable, you do need to have the lid open so your screen is on. If you have it closed, your MacBook's probably going to be sleeping and it's not going to know that it needs to extend its display. So first you need, or duplicate its display. First you need to plug it in. Once you get it in like this, then you can close your lid and it should be fine. One thing to point out too, I'm not sure if this is useful for people, but you can also come up here, you can click the screen mirroring icon, and if you, instead of wanting to mirror your display, you can also use it as a separate display, which is like an extended mode. So now your desktop here would be different than the desktop there, and you could move things back and forth depending on what you need. Most people probably just want to mirror their display for simplicity, but if you need to extend it, that is an option. Again, when you want to get out of here, you could either unplug first, or you can go to home, and then you'll be back here. You can close that guy, and then you're all done.